Hey, welcome to the Everything Paranormal Show. I'm your host, Josh Morris, and also co-host Stacy Tallis there next to me, right there. Guys, this is going to be a show. Now, listen, I'm excited, so I just want to get into this real quick. But the first thing I want to tell you, because this is going to be the beginning of the video and the title of this video, why psychics are wrong. So this is going to probably tick off a lot of psychics. Maybe you start watching this video. I'm hoping that in the very beginning, when you listen to me in this very beginning, understand something. We are going to show that you're wrong. It's going to tick you off. But at the same time, we're also going to defend you, and we're going to get into it. So if you really want to know the truth behind psychics and whether they're right or wrong, you need to watch the whole video. Don't just watch, don't get mad, and then just go down to the comment section down below and be like, yeah, no, no, no. None of that crying, none of that crap, none of that bullshit. We're going to talk to you guys, and we're going to explain to you our side of things. Stacy here is an expert. He does remote viewing, things like that. I'm an expert in just, experience. We're both been in the industry and had experience over many, many years. So we're going to give you our take on different things. Relax. We're going to dive into this. So for those of you that are really wanting to know whether psychics are real or not, hey, watch this because we have a lot of info. It may go back and forth, but trust me, watch to the end and you'll get it. So, Stacy, with that being said, that was I really wanted to put that disclaimer out there because, as you know, anytime you attack or make a claim like that in this type of world, it's huge. So what do you like? How would you respond if you were like a site? Well, I mean, it'd be almost the same as if somebody's like, "Hey, remote viewers are fake" or something. You'd be like, "What?" So, how do you anticipate people taking this?
Well, being psychic, I really hate the word psychic because it has a lot of baggage attached to it. It simply from the early days of gypsies rolling around in a trailer with a crystal ball at fairs and conning people out of money to Harry Houdini debunking them and the amazing Randy debunking them. They a lot of the connotation of psychic to me just it hurts,
Right.
because when it comes down to it, everyone is psychic. Uh, we call it intuition. Intuition in itself is a real thing. It's, even the amazing Randy will tell you that everyone has intuition. How they define intuition is different. If you're a neuropsychologist, the intuition is the unconscious mind processing information deep subconsciously, and you intuitively reflect that into the real world,
Right.
meaning that it has some legitimacy behind it because the brain itself uh, it only has about 23 watts of power, and it brings in every single second 250 gigs worth of information through your eyes, your ears, your sensory. The thing of it is because you only have a low wattage ability to process all of that information, your brain is really good at deleting the majority of it, or at least putting it on the back burner to be used sometime later.
So
So you
you're
don't.
saying we have enough bandwidth, but maybe a small bus, and it's just kind of getting stuck in that. We can take it all in, but then we just can't seem to. But
Right.
we obviously have a good processor because we do process like a ton, like a billion things, at once. Of course, a lot of it is subconscious.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
it's 64K of information is processed by our id or our conscious mind. The
right.
rest of that information gets thrown into the hard drive to be used sometime later. It's a cache, and it comes out in dreams. It comes out in deja vu. It comes out in a lot of different things that people credit to paranormal, but it is actual information that you've taken in unconsciously. The subconscious actually is the bulk of your life experience. So
So, in other words, like subconsciously, we're a supercomputer, but
yeah,
consciously, we're like PlayStation One.
yeah, the brain is a quantum computer. For all intents and purposes, the brain is a quantum computer. It just really sucks at managing all of that information because it only will process like a PlayStation worth of information when you've got terabytes Google level
Right.
data coming down. And that is, from a remote viewer standpoint, even the data that is coming down is actually not just through the five senses. It's coming
So,
from the actual universe too.
right.
So
All right. So I want to dive into this subject for sure. And let me explain where this is stemming from for those of you that are like, well, why is Josh saying that psychics are wrong? Again, bear with me. We're going to get into this. So the reason why this whole stem is like, I'm a part of a lot of paranormal groups. I'm not always active, but when you're a part of groups on Facebook, they just pop up on your feed, right? Like people will make posts and then there's like this discussion. So I see a lot of interesting discussions out there. And sorry, I got like something's tickling my nose. All right. So uh, I've seen a lot of discussion lately about psychics, and it seems to be kind of this trend here lately especially, I don't know. But it just seems like more often I've seen conversations recently that have been more about uh, people asking, like posting questions to psychic groups and things like that. And they get like 20 or 30 responses from psychics, right? And these 20 or 30 responses are different in nature. So a lot of people are going, well, if psychics are real, and again, I'm lumping everything together. I know Stacy said that, but unfortunately, the mainstream, most people, whether it's clairvoyant, whether you're a medium, whether you're an actual psychic, there is some differences, but it gets lumped together. I'm lumping everything together in that pseudoscience fashion. So, anyways, so they say in their mind, they're like in their logic mind, they're saying, okay, if I'm getting 30 different responses, right, to this question, and psychics are supposed to be real and good at what they do, why am I getting all these different responses? Now, this is not just an easy answer. We're going to dissect this answer in like over this next little bit because again, it's not black and white. It would be easy to say, well, that's because psychics just don't exist or whatever, but that's not true. Now I want to turn this over to Stacy a little bit too because I want him to explain. I want him to give his take on 30 different answers and why that may be.
well, it goes back to what I was just saying with the unconscious mind. You cannot describe something that you have never experienced before. You cannot describe an event or a situation that you yourself have not experienced, whether it be watching it happen to someone else or it happening to you. Even in books, the authors spend a great deal of effort to try and relate the reader to, in novels, I mean, to a particular experience that attaches itself to their own experiences. Psychics are being asked to do something that they have never had experience with, which is somebody else's issue or somebody else's future. And they're trying to relate it to something that they've already had themselves. And if it comes along and the psychic has never, let's say, gone to Nashville, I've never been to Nashville. I would have a very difficult time as a psychic trying to describe something that was happening to someone in Nashville because I would have to describe the buildings and the landmarks that I've never ever seen before. That kind of database that you have in your unconscious mind is what fuels a lot of misinterpretations for
Right.
psychics because they're relating something that's their experience to someone else's experience, which may not even be closely related.
Right. I mean that makes sense on that level. But let me pose this to you. So let's say somebody was traveling and they left their keys somewhere, right? Not maybe their main key, like just say their house keys. They separated their house key and their car key. And they left their house key somewhere. They get back home. They have the neighbor lets them in with a spare key or something, right? So they get in the house and they go on Facebook and they go to the spiritual group and they say, "Hey, psychics, if anybody can help me, I left my car keys in, a state," and then they get 50 different states. Okay. Um, why is that?
Well, the same thing. They're trying to relate what is prevalent to them, the psychic, to someone else without. And a lot of times it's first guess. Uh, with psychics, they learn that the first impression is always the correct one. May not be the best interpretation of what that data is, but it is the correct data. Um, Again, it comes down to interpretation. What is the database of the psychic as opposed to the actual events of the person they're doing it for? The mind is one of these things where it tries to do a recall of whatever data they've got. They get a little bitty picture of the data, a smidgen, like a little puzzle piece. And the brain in AOL, what we call in remote viewing, which is analytical overlay, the brain likes to take that little piece of information and says, "Oh, I know what that is," and then just throws it out there as though that is the actual answer. Not really. That little piece of it could be a whole bunch of different things that have nothing to do with what the brain in its database have a relationship to. It's the interpretation, and I've seen it with a lot of really famous psychics like John Edwards. His process in how he relates to people in the audience is to associate TV shows from the 70s because he was one of these kids that sat in front of the TV and he was the TV guide. He knew every single show that was on TV. Granted, there was 3 channels, but he knew every program at what time of the day, what time of the week. It was all, he had it all memorized. His whole life was the TV. And what he does is he interprets whatever data people want to ask him about to a particular episode of a particular show, and it gives him an idea of the whole overall theme of what the problem is and what the resolution is. But he doesn't actually see what people's problems are. He doesn't actually see a dead grandma or anything like that. He's getting in a little piece of information that relates to an episode of an old sitcom, and he can extrapolate the circumstance from there. Simply because they're easy to interpret. And
So let me ask you this. I don't know if there's like a percentage, but in your opinion, what if you could say, like, okay, so let's just stick with the guy that lost his car keys, right? And you got 50 psychics respond, and all 50 of them had a different state, right? I'm just throwing out. I know it probably wouldn't be that case, but out of 50 psychics, how many would you say are like good psychics, like actual, real, decent psychics?
Well, I don't actually have to guess on that because Stanford Research Institute, SDI, spent 20 million tax dollars to discover this. They actually researched it over a period of about 15 years and tested from Yuri, I can't remember what it's, the guy who bends the spoons.
Oh yeah.
To all of these different famous psychics. They actually studied them and ran them through the ringer, trying to determine their accuracy rate. And the best that any psychic could actually get was 80%. That was 80% accurate. And most of them were way below that.
Right.
And it really came down to the interpretation of the information that they got.
And I wanted to definitely touch on that too, because I want to clarify. So let's say you're the person, and I'm talking to the audience now. Let's say you're the person that left your keys, and you turn to psychics, and you say, "Hey," and you ask 50 psychics, "Hey, where did I leave my keys?" I want to throw out there that, first of all, let's say Stacy is right, and there's an 80% accuracy, but keep in mind, out of that 50 psychics, you may only be looking at 2 or 3 that can even hit that 80%.
Yeah.
So again, I want to say that when you get 50 different answers, realistically, there's only a couple of those that may actually be accurate. I know you might say, well, Josh, that's because all 50 answers were, all 50 possibilities were there. But I mean, I'm just using that as an analogy. Chances are, and here's the other point, and I'm going to let Stacy expand on this, and I'm going to touch on it too. Is that a lot of times, first of all, if you're reaching out to social media and things like that, sometimes the other grief I've seen is when people go to like a festival, and then you come across that one booth or that one tent that may be doing psychic readings. Keep in mind, again, this is a situation. It's hard. There, a lot of times you want a connection, and this is what I want to get into. So I think Stacy knows where I'm going with this. Is a connection between. So the guy asking keys, right? He's asking 50 strangers, psychics, that, hey, where does anybody have any idea where my keys? So you're going to get all of these psychics, again, a bunch of them are, they're going to shoot from the hip, so to speak, right? They're just going to throw out, I'm feeling Kentucky, I'm feeling Alaska, and this guy didn't tell him anything, right? He didn't tell him where he went in his travels, just United States or something.
Surprised somebody didn't say the floorboard of your car.
Right. So I'm just saying, like, if he asks what state did I leave him in, because maybe he already checked his car, he already checked everything, and he's like, I left him in one of the states. Who knows? But just as the example, but there was really no major connection. Maybe one or two of the psychics, maybe they meditated, maybe they did some things spiritually to try to reach and extend out in the universe and try to make that connection. Maybe they took their time. But I wanted Stacy to truly cover a little bit about how important establishing connections are to things as well, as far as being helpful or not, maybe. But Stacy, what do you think about that? You think there's any merit to that?
Yeah, in the experience of psychics, the two bugbears in doing anything psychically is when and where. Largely because the psychic mind cannot differentiate one state from another or one area from another. It really is difficult to determine. Like if I, tell a psychic that I'm doing something in the Badlands, they know what to look for because that's in a location that we've already established. But if I say that I'm going dinosaur bone hunting, that could be anywhere. And literally they wouldn't be able to tell where I was at, what state I was in. They would be able to maybe describe the landscape somewhat, but where I'm at physically, I could be in Siberia for all they know. And it's very difficult because these are man-made constructs. Time is a man-made construct, and the location where the name of the country you might be in. So it's very difficult to do those things.
Right.
Name a location. And I can tell you, working with the Find Me group, it's a group of people who actually go looking for children who've gone missing. And it's usually cold cases, but they use psychics in order to help find these children. And, they're all over the board. These are some of the best psychics in the world, and they are all over the board on a location. They can't get very close because everything looks the same. It's in a forest, it's in trees, there's in a ditch. They can't name a location like near Phoenix or in Tulsa, because that doesn't exist really in the psychic realm.
Right.
But the overall point that I forgot what your actual question
Connections.
was. Yeah,
connections. And real quick, before that, I would just want to say, hey, Tara, and hey, Sadia, Miss Coronado there.
Oh, yeah.
It's a Geronimo Coronado.
Geronimo.
Yeah. And was it Josie? What was it? I can't remember the grandmother's name. But yeah, it's Coronado, and of course Tara. How's it going? Good to see you all in the chat. My wife normally is in the chat, but she's I think she's picking up dinner for we had a tennis match, and her and my son's driving, like picking up food and stuff for them. Yes, Josie. Yep. See, we try to remember around here. So, but I want to add to the connection, and I'll let Stacy wrap up anything on that too. Is what I wanted to add too is I wanted to use an example of tarot, because I do some tarot readings, of course, and we do the readings through the internet, and through the internet, it's very impersonable. So one thing that I try to do is I try to open up my energy, and I usually, and you guys will hear me if you ever watch any of my tarot readings, I try to ask for names if I can. I try to ask for a little bit of specifics, things that can help.
Hey, Bob.
Help the process. Hey, what's going on, Bob? I'm glad to see you're in there. All right. And I did hear about your good news. So, and I did share good news. I didn't share the details, but I did share the good news. But to finish my point that I was talking is that, I try to do my best as somebody that, even though it's kind of an impersonal situation, I try to do my best to get as many details and try to make some kind of connection and open myself up for the spirit guides to where my energy and those type of things can travel through the zeitgeist, through the spirit realms, and try to find these people and locate them and give them either the best possible chances for readings and things like that. So you do your best. And I guess my point is sometimes too, there's psychics, there's people that they just kind of give generic answers, or I've seen them very impersonal, where if you ever go on TikTok and you look up like tarot readings or things like that, you'll see a lot of times they're just blazing through. There's no personal connections. They're just literally, and this is how fast they're going. They're just like, oh, Randy, you're not going to get a girlfriend anytime soon. Sorry, hun. Oh, Michelle, yes, you're going to be having a baby soon. Let's see. Judy, yes, you're going to be getting that promotion. That's how fast they'll go through, and they'll do these dowsing rods, yes and no questions, swinging the rods. There's no personal connection. So in my opinion, you might as well just be making it up at that point.
Yeah, and they are
going to do those type of things. And that's what I'm talking about. Even when people reach out to psychics, keep in mind that it's not that they're wrong in that sense. It's just that, unfortunately, there's a lot of fire from the hip, and you see a lot of wrong answers. But if you find a good psychic and they take the time to establish a connection, good psychics know what to do. They know what to do in order to give better results. And I think what Stacy is really trying to also point out is that even the good psychics, it's hard. They may get images in their mind, and it's like, I'm seeing a wooded area. I'm seeing, oh, so that's half the country,
Yeah.
and that's tough, because you can see things, but it's very hard to get details. I've had a few images in my mind that has came in there, and I've tried so hard to depict things, but a lake and a hill, and a car roughly around the time frame, like these are so generic. I just know maybe a time frame, but it could be almost anywhere, in a good chunk of the United States. So
I have seen people with pendulums, swing the pendulum over a map and get relatively close in that regard. But it's even then, you're talking, depending on the size of the map, your accuracy within a few hundred miles. So it can narrow things down for you, but it's still it's difficult to know when and where something is actually taking place, because again, these ideas are human constructs. They aren't
Right.
part of the overall way the universe itself thinks, because to the universe, everything is happening all at the same time and everywhere at the same time. So
Right.
when you start to get specific, the universe is like, what are you talking about? I don't understand. So
I think a perfect example is, and this is where you can look at, and I've had these situations before, but one example is if you go back to my Brian Laundry videos where you see me and Stacy, we contact some spirits and we try to find out about some questions about Brian Laundry. This was back when there was supposedly his remains. They didn't confirm that it was his remains, but they were pretty sure. And so we had did some spirit sessions, and we were told that that's not his remains, but we were told that there's remains in the mountains in the Appalachians, things like that. But one thing I want people to understand is that even if they truly confirm the identity that those remains in Florida were Brian Laundrie's, what you have to understand is that there's probably a better chance that we were right. And here's what I'm talking about. Not that we were right about Brian Laundrie's remains, but that there was probably the spirit was probably just telling us like, yeah, that's not his remains, but go look at this location, go try to find these remains, because it's probably the remains of that spirit that we were talking to. Yeah. And they're just guiding us to that possibly, or to another crime or whatever. So guys, things work in mysterious ways, and that's what I wanted to bring up, and I'll let Stacy kind of talk on that too.
Yeah, well, when you're dealing with the dead, hang on, Bob's question here. How does the accuracy of tarot compare to the Stacy's divination techniques? It comes back to the accuracy of the individual doing it, the skill level of the person doing it, because someone like Josh, who's just started using tarot, can be more accurate than somebody who's been doing it for 20 years. So because he's doing it correctly and meticulously, while the other person is just, making it up as they go along. The cards themselves don't really matter. It's the person who's doing it. Your accuracy level and skill level at that, whatever divination process you're using.
And I think that one time that the one time that you and I both did divination at the same time, we accurately ended up getting the same results, I think, on every single question. So
the yes and no, we were getting the exact same thing, yes and no.
Yeah. So, I mean, is that always going to be the case? No. But again, like Stacy said, and it's interesting too, because I also think that, and I think Stacy brings up a good point when he says that you got some people that's been doing this for 20 years and they may not be as accurate as a newer person. And I think that's funny because it does seem to make sense, because I can see where sometimes people get lazy over the years too. It's like they've been doing it so long, they just take things for granted so much. It's like, why concentrate anymore? Why put the effort in there anymore? Why do that when I've been doing it so long? I can just pretty much say whatever I want to say, make it sound good, some mumbo jumbo, and there you go. So
yeah, it comes down to they don't even believe their own bullshit anymore. So but the connection that you have with your spirit guide is a personal one, and once you make that connection, you can expand upon that, like what you're doing. We're asking other spirits to come in and talk, or give information, or even give messages to loved ones in the chat.
Yeah,
these kind of things are very personal on the level of your own spirit guide.
I think regardless of, like Bob's talking about, that how they had psychics come behind their investigations and find out that they were actually validating some things. And I think that's all great. And I think the point of this show is to really tell people, listen, you can try to pin like these wrong answers and say, hey, psychics are BS, psychics are bullshit because all this other, but we're trying to explain to you why they are wrong, but then also how to find better psychics and how to find those different results, and to understand that even when you find good psychics, it's still going to be as high as 80% accuracy. Okay, so even the good psychics don't ride the high 80s. Okay, it's like having an athlete always at their top of their game. It's not going to happen. So that's why you have to understand there is going to be some fudge factor, right?
Yeah. Well, 1 out of 5 details is going to be wrong. No matter what they tell you, 1 out of 5 details is going to be wrong, simply by the law of averages in that 80%. So don't take everything they say as, gospel, because you don't know where that 20% error rate is at. It could be at the beginning of the reading, it could be in the middle, it could be at the end, or sprinkled throughout. So take the information that you're given as what is accurate, but don't bet the farm on the lottery numbers they give you.
Right.
It's
And I think the future is hard too. Like if you look at a future versus a past reading or things like that, future is very fluid. Some say it's set in stone, that we all have certain paths, but I do believe there is some fluidity to it. I think, not to steal from Jedi philosophy, but emotion is the future. So I think that some of that's correct. I think emotions can change and come into play. I think there are certain factors. We may be on sort of a set general course, but I think there's a lot of little details in our lives. We're like little ants, right, in the ant farm, and I think a lot of stuff that we do don't always matter in that sense too. So there's some in your own personal destinies. With that being said, I think that future readings, when you have them done, I think yes, they can be representative of the future that you're currently in, and that's why they're good guidance, because it's not quite set in stone. So if you get a reading and it's saying, hey, you're headed for something bad, health wise, well, guess what, start changing some things. You may be able to change your future and avoid that bad health thing. If it's a good thing in the future, you still can mess that up. Okay. So you just want to use it as guidance and work towards those things.
yeah.
And I wanted to show you too. So I got another cool new crystal. I forget the name of this one. This is an actual crystal. It's not resin. But look at this. If you can just see, look, when you get to that certain spot, look at the layering in there. See that kind of curvature laying? So this is an actual crystal. I forget the name of it, but it's not resin. Like this is resin. You can feel the difference. It looks cool. They look cool. They look about the same, but you can feel there's a temperature difference. This is like a real, but this is one that we got a bunch of crystals in, and this is one that I kept and Terry Lynn gave me. But I love the layering of that. It's so cool to see inside. It's almost like a whole other world inside some of these crystals. And then, of course, now you guys can kind of see some of the. I think this is blue apatite. I don't think this is lapis lazuli, but I believe this is called blue apatite. I don't know if I can show you guys this one. This is that. Is this tiger's eye? I think this might be tiger's eye, but this is really cool. If you can see, there's just some depth in there. It's just so cool. Have you seen this stuff in person? I don't know if that's. I'm trying to see if it'll focus better. But anyway, I believe it's tiger's eye. But yeah, I just thought I'd show you guys since we were talking about mystical stuff and cool stuff like that. I just thought I'd show you guys my new. And I had another new stone too. I left it upstairs. I was going to bring it down here for you guys. But all right, so we're doing good on that. All right, so I definitely still want to keep talking about this situation because I do feel like we didn't fully answer you guys. I think we did mostly though. So if you've watched it to this point, awesome. Keep watching. Don't give up because we have more information on this. And also take a moment, go get Paranormal Underground magazine. They're always sponsoring our show and we're always inside the magazine. It's kind of a deal we have. But a great magazine every first of the month. Go see them. Tell them Josh sent you. You're going to get a full year for free, and usually it just keeps going for free. So it's a full, awesome magazine. There's awesome contributors in there. One of the contributors that wrote many great articles is right here in the chat, Bob Fountain. So, guys, if you want to read some amazing articles, you definitely want to go get that. So I can't talk enough about Paranormal Underground magazine. If a psychic say run, hope they're wrong. Right. Well, and that's the thing, and so what's the lesson for people on Facebook? I think if you're going to judge psychics on Facebook, take some time, establish some relationships with the psychics that you're trying to do. Find out about them. What type of psychic? Are they a medium? Do they have a spirit guide? Or are they a psychic that relies on, maybe they rely on crystal balls or something, things like that. Maybe they're clairvoyant and they just receive precog type, images. But find out about them and talk to them. Sometimes people get very standoffish, and it actually makes things worse because all people, when they come across a psychic, they naturally want to close up and they say, "Hey, I'm not telling you anything. You need to tell me and I'll judge you." And that's not really a good approach, believe it or not. I know it may seem like that, you might want to just completely shut them off, but it's okay to talk to psychics a little bit. It's okay to give them some information because that helps that energy bind. And honestly, that can give you a better reading if you are comfortable with a psychic and you have that bond.
Also, the best psychics are not in Vegas. They're not on the strip. They're not in the French Quarter with a table and the tarot decks in Jackson Square. These are not the best psychics. These are people who are mercenaries, and your money is more important to them than your situation. So, and especially in Vegas, you got a lot of these magicians who use mentalism, which can look like psychic, that is not. And the best example of that is in Woody Harrelson played in Do You See Me?
Oh yeah.
He played a mentalist in that show who was pretending to be a psychic. And what he was doing was cold reading. He would, ask questions, and an involuntary microaggression or micro expression would take place, and it would tell him yes or no what his question was. And he could determine whether or not, all sorts of different things. And he used it in comic relief throughout the movie. But they are con artists that are very skilled in the art of mentalism or stage magic or anything like that, who like to pretend that they're psychic because that's where they get their money. So that being said,
Right. And and if you're a psychic out there and you watch this show, if you legitimately watched this from the beginning and you've gotten to this point, I would say that, listen, obviously, hopefully, you've understood the point of this show. It's not so much to say that all psychics are wrong and that you shouldn't believe in psychics. Clearly, we want you to watch this video because we're trying to make a point. And it's good to see Terry Lynn made it in the chat. Hey, baby. But we want to make a point, and which is up your game, right? Up your game. Don't be shady. If you want to be a psychic, if you have these gifts, then take time, take more time. Don't try to just rake in the money by hammering through question after question after question. If you're doing tarot readings, things like that, stop. Take your time a little more. Get some connection with your people, because you cannot convince me otherwise. You can't sit there and say, "Well, I'm so good that I can just, I hear names and I can just speed run like questions." That's BS. So, uh, rethink the way you're doing it. And of course, I know like that's not going to change. You're still going to have a ton of psychics out there. You're going to have a ton of them out there that's going to be taking your money. But hopefully, those of you that are watching this also may up your game, and you may say, you know what, Josh and Stacy make some really good points. Maybe I won't go to that psychic and just give them $5 or $10 or $20 or 50 or more for that quick cold reading. Maybe you're going to go shop around now and find psychics that are willing to make that connection with you and take time to give you an accurate reading, whether it's tarot or whether it's, whatever it is, whatever that reading that you need. Find the right people for you.
Or
Stacey,
learn it yourself. There's nothing
learn it yourself.
there's nothing a psychic can tell you that you can't find out yourself. All of these, we are gifted with all of these the same faculties. There's nothing special about a psychic other than they've learned how to pay attention to what is going on inside their noodle. If you're able to pay attention to that, what is actually coming in, what you feel, what you smell, what you taste, everything that you understand in split second uh, bites, you can do exactly the same thing they can do. There's nothing that makes them uniquely special. And the psychics that go out there and say, well, I was born with this. No, no, no. Everyone was born with this. The ones who are particularly useful usually have some kind of childhood trauma to go along with it. Dad was a drunk. He used to come home and beat him. Um, you know, they drowned in the pond one summer. There was a trauma that took place that kicked this extra sensory thing solely for self-defense and survival. It was something that you needed to do in order to survive because something really intense was going on as a child. But everyone's born with this. It's just a matter of harnessing it and focus.
Right. And I would even use like Terry Lynn and myself as a good example, because like Terry Lynn, because of her traumas, and I don't want to, get into, I'll let her talk about that, but it really opened up her intuition and things, on a higher level. And, when I got with her, there was a huge gap in intuition. And again, I always had to rely on her for sure. Now I've been working on it, developing it, and I've had to learn it. And the more you've done it, the more you do it, the more you're out in the field among paranormal. Like for me, like my intuition when I'm out doing field investigations, the more I do tarot readings, the more I do dowsing rod sessions, the more I do things, the you start feeling that intuition increase. You start having more feelings. You start getting more images. You start receiving more data from the paranormal universe, so to speak.
How it works.
So that really helps. Now, like, with Terry Lynn and I, now we're more of a formidable, we're more of a formidable force now in that sense, where I've been able to kind of up my game a little bit as well. But I'm just wanted to kind of touch on that point that Stacey was talking about, where some people are have that traumatic experience and it frees things. But at the same time, even if you don't have that traumatic experience, so to speak, you still can develop and keep putting yourself out there and work on it. And I want to do this plug for you, Stacey. So, guys, in the comments below, if you're interested in those first steps, that first journey into a larger world, right? Then Stacey's got some courses on Udemy or however you want to pronounce it. But Stacey's got some courses and remote viewing. I would recommend start there. Start with his remote viewing course. That's where I started when it comes to that bigger picture. But start with there, guys. Click on the link, and he's always doing like sales all the time for other courses, and like he's got a bunch of stuff. So if you want to start your journey, that's a good place to start.
Yeah, and the focus of all of my courses is practical application. Some people there's a lot of courses in Udemy on how to do tarot cards, how to do witchcraft, how to do any kind of yoga, in all sorts of spiritual stuff. But a lot of them tell you the same things. You need to sit down, you need to clear your mind, you need to focus on your happy place, and just things happen. That's not what I do. What I do is actually show you how, through practical application, how to discover where your car keys are lost, different things like that. It is things that you will use in your everyday life, even things that you didn't know you could do, you can do, like bet on the ponies. these things are regimented, and it's a skill. You learn it like you learn how to play tennis. It is a skill that you have to practice, and you get better with every use. As
Yeah.
long as you follow the protocols, you get better. And all of a sudden, you start doing stuff. You're like, holy moly, I'm blowing my own mind here. So
It is weird, and that's what I tell people. Like it is wild. The more you get into it, like there's things that you're just like, wow, I can't believe I thought of that. And then sometimes there's things like you can't prove it to anybody else. It don't matter because like you'll have that intuition. Like you'll start receiving those images, and things will happen, and you'll be like, holy crap, I knew that was going to happen. Or or you could just sense things, and you're like, you can't prove it to anybody because you didn't tell anybody, but you just know, and you just know when your intuition is getting better. So, Bob, yes, Karen Frazier, talking about she also writes for Paranormal Underground magazine. I know Karen Frazier and Cheryl Knight also do a podcast together, I believe, right? I think they're still doing that, right, Bob? But yes, I probably would. I've been meaning to get Cheryl Knight on the show again too. Who runs Paranormal Underground magazine, but she's hard to track down. And Terry Lynn, sorry about your migraine. I know it was stressful. Like the tournament went real stressful. So basically, I just tell you guys this because you guys, I vent to you guys, my audience. I let you in on some of our personal life, but we had a tennis tournament. My son had a high school tennis tournament, and it's like it was a tough one. We knew going into it was going to be a tough school. It was going to be tough, and then the kid that he played really started hooking him. So like, what that really means is like kind of almost like I don't want to just say cheating, but pretty much like calling my son's balls out when they were in. We have a video, so but you can't use video there on the spot. But the point is every time it's just like imagine if you're facing a tough opponent, and every time you start making a comeback, then they cheat, and it's like it depresses you. It just takes it out of you. And no matter how much you keep fighting back, and then every so often they cheat and they knock you back down. It's like it's so hard to gain that momentum it takes to really put up a good fight. And we're not saying that's why that my son lost or anything, but I'm just kind of letting you guys know that when that stuff happens, I'm sure you can relate if you ever had an opponent that just cheated you every so often and just got to where you could not truly put up that fight that you normally would. And because other than that, he did all right. So, but anyways,
McEnroe on him, throwing the racket at.
Well, and you're supposed to go to your coach, your coach, and say, like when those start happening, and you're supposed to ask for a line judge. Whereas like the coaches can act as line judges because it's not a USTA, it's high school tennis, but they can act as line judges. And even his coach, unfortunately, was pretty much giving him the cold shoulder, and it just when you lose support from your own coach when you need that coach the most, it also deflates you as a character or as a player. Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm saying. It was really tough psychologically today, and losing and not having any support from your coach or things like that. It just makes things rough. So Bob said, in my 20s, I went to a spiritual church where the psychics were amazing in the accuracy of their messages. I think the difference was they were doing it for spiritual enlightenment. Yeah, I mean, that's a possibility. What do you think, Stacy?
Yeah, I did the same thing. That's how I'm doing what I'm doing now. That's how I started. It wasn't for money or even anything mercenary like that. It was for improving your life and your instrument in this life, and learning how to work with the dead, with your spirit guides. It was in the Latin community, they have houses that do this. They have misas or seances on a regular basis. The same way you go to church, they have seances weekly. And what you do is you learn how to communicate with the dead by being around people who are communicating with the dead. And everybody's at their own level. But you can, it is really easy to know, because if you start sensing something and it doesn't make a lot of sense to you, and you're getting images of something and you're like, man, that is that me, or is that my imagination? Is that what's going on here? You have this insecurity going on and you're afraid to actually say what you're experiencing. And then someone right next to you or across the room from you describes the exact same thing you just saw. That's an affirmation to you that what you're getting is the accurate information. It is a positive affirmation, and you learn what is real and what is fake or imagination by participating in everyone's experiences at the same time. It's really kind of cool.
Yeah, and I like that you guys do it for the spiritual enlightenment. I think that's a nice soft touch. I'm just like, I do it for the money, guys. I do it for the money.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding, because I've been rolling in the dough ever since I've been doing spiritual stuff. Now,
I would love to do it for the spiritual enlightenment all the time, but my dad and my, essentially gods in the religion, they have given me strict orders that if I do it outside the religion or bring people in like readings like what you're doing, I must charge money. I cannot do it for free. It's they call it eche, which is blessings. I can't give away my blessings for free.
Yeah. Well, and that's like my boss. I don't want to say my God is, but my boss says I have to charge too. That's called Terry Lynn. So, but in seriousness though, I do it for free for you guys for now, just because again, I like to use it for practice. I like to practice with you guys, give you guys the best possible readings I can, and to build up my skills. So then I will start charging money eventually when I start becoming in more demand. But with that being said, like and share our videos. Please get me out there. People are like, I'm not sharing your videos because then you're going to be in demand. But no, I'll still take care of our regular customers. I always do. Guys, you guys are awesome. And I love each and every one of you. I do. But I will say this, Stacy, let's kind of tease them about next week. So for those of you that are watching, if you are UFO enthusiasts, or if you like to, wonder about UFOs, well, guess what? Recently, Stacy was just telling me this. Recently, there was a large UFO file dump from the government. Okay, and we got the inside scoop on 15,000 pages of UFO stuff from the government. So, guys, I don't want to spoil it, but you're going to want to watch next week. We're going to talk about the UFO file dump. Stacey, are you excited for that?
Yeah. I mean, they go through and they show, all the things that people have been experiencing with abductions and at close encounters and things of that sort. Everything from, mysterious pregnancies to radiation burns and all sorts of physical side effects from just being in close proximity of a UFO encounter.
Well, and we're not going to give it away. That's just a smidgen of some stuff. But again, guys, if you want to know more about the UFO file dump and you don't want to read 15,000 pages worth, then come see us next Thursday. So wanted to tease that for you guys. We're going to do that. So I'm excited. We don't do a lot of UFO episodes. I think the last one I did was with Bob Fountain like 2 years ago, I think. We haven't really done much on UFOs. Oh, well, and I did with Rich Wheeler from BRS Media when we did the Area 51 thing, when they were going to storm the gates. Remember, they were all talking about storming the Area 51.
The Yu-Gi-Oh run or whatever.
Oh, the Naruto run. They were gonna do some Naruto runs with the arms back, like some Japanese anime.
Yeah, there was guys from the base who were getting online saying, "No, don't do that.
Yeah,
that would be bad. Just don't do that." You
Oh,
know,
they had people going out there and doing live from like the gates, and I mean, it did raise awareness back to Area 51. It was pretty cool to see just how secretive they still are about the place, and the security, the white trucks. If you guys don't know about the white trucks, go back and check out some of the videos from that time frame when they talk about the white trucks, which is pretty much like contracted security, but the way that they act, and it's crazy. So but yes, I'm excited. Like, again, we haven't talked about UFOs and aliens and that type of genre in a while, because I know we say that we're the Everything Paranormal show, and we tend to focus mostly on ghosts and spirit realm and things like that. But we'll do some more UFO stuff, and if you guys want, we'll look at getting back into some Bigfoot stuff too, some cryptids. I know I haven't had a Bigfoot guy on here in a long time. So we got to track down a Bigfoot guy. I was gonna go to a large Bigfoot convention. I was going to attend one in Gatlinburg, but they emailed me back like, "Oh, we're all full. We just filled up." So I missed out on that. And they're like, "Well, you can still show up." I'm like, "Nah," like I wanted to go there with my booth and stuff and talk about my show and be there, in a vendor style, and meet people. I don't want to go there and just walk around and get Bigfoot stickers. I think this is the this is the last time I was at one. Was you guys saw I did a thing for you, and there you go, a little Belize. I actually did a. You can go back in my videos and you'll see where I was at one in Kingsport a while back, like a year ago or so, maybe 2 years now. It's COVID, so. Let's see, Josh. Do we still have the files that were dumped after the election?
that's what this was. The files that just got dumped was what the executive order of what Trump told the government, military, they needed to disclose it all. And they just did it last week, and they were supposed to do it within 6 months. They even held out even when they were under executive order, but
Yeah.
it all came out.
Yeah, we still have that stuff, I believe, honey. I'll have to go through maybe before the show next week. I'll have to go through and see if I can find any certain documents. I'm not sure if it's the same dump that Stacey's talking about. I'm not sure because I don't remember seeing much about UFO stuff. I know there was like the HB laptop stuff. You guys know what we're talking about without getting kicked off things, but.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got them off Telegram at the time. So yeah, honey, that could be something. I'll check into it sometime through this week, for sure. Let's see, update on things. So filming stuff, filming stuff. You guys are going to get more content. I talked about that last time I did a show, but just update on the regular show. Yes, guys, we got filming that's happening. I can't wait. There's even more locations coming up soon. We're gonna be doing a lot more. I mean, it's just we're gonna do a lot. So the more you guys stick with me, I really appreciate it. But that's about it. I mean, as far as updates go, guys, that's about all I really had on updates.
My mouse is
pregnant. I don't care. I'm over here just turning shit on. So, all right. So you guys need to go to my TikTok. All right. So if you're watching this and you have TikTok, you need to go to my TikTok. All right. It's BeyondDeVeil. So, hold on. Well, let me see if I can. So I'll just scroll this for a second. But if you look down here at the bottom, it says BeyondDeVeil, DEVEIL. BeyondDeVeil 2022. Go type that into TikTok, and start following us, guys. I've been doing funny videos and things like that. Things that so here's a funny little video I'll show you guys. Hold on, let's see. I'll try to show you guys a little bit. I don't want to show you everything, but guys, here we go. So you can see. So there you go. There's a little bit of that in there for you guys. So
For the older generation on TikTok, meaning like people born in the late 90s. The older generation.
So anyway, so you guys can see there. I'm gonna shut that. I'll shut that off. I don't want to give you guys away. I don't want to give it away. But you'll have to go check out. I've got some more funny videos on there. There's also some tarot readings and things too. There's some of my dowsing rod sessions that I did in some of my other videos that maybe you didn't get. What video? Hold on. I'm getting a request through the Yellogram. Which one? Huh? Oh, yep. Oh. So this was kind of so Terilyn wants me to share this with you guys. Hold on. Let me get back here. So this one here is a situation where so I'm gonna set this up so you guys understand fully what this video is about. So our son and they played a tough school fairly recently. Not this is not the situation we talked about today. This was another situation that happened. Well, so my son had kind of like a rocky moment. Literally, if anybody knows anything about tennis, they were doing a pro set, which means they play up to 8 games. So a lot of times when you watch tennis matches and stuff, they'll play multiple sets. Well, when they have weather problems, when they're trying to shorten the time frames, they only play one set and they'll play up to 8 games in that set, like the first one to 8 by 2. And I'm not talking about points. Okay, we're talking games, which means they have to go back and forth. You have to win a game by earning more points. I don't want to explain all the tennis to you guys, but the point is winning a game, it takes a lot. So our son was down 1-7. Okay, so all this kid had to do was win one more game, and our son kept fighting back, and he won another game. Then it was 2-7. And he fought back, won another game, 3-7, and he kept going, like a Rocky moment at the last minute. Caught all the way back up, and they went to tie break, battled out, and even our son got down in tie break, came back to win it. So it was an amazing moment. But here's the thing. Here's the rub. So in the very beginning, this kid was dancing off and on. He would make a shot, and then he actually literally was dancing and showing off. So he was being arrogant throughout the match, acting like, oh, yeah, I got this, and of course, in front of his school, and his school's like, oh, yeah, and he's like dancing, yeah, I made that shot. So again, this is a lesson in arrogance also, to not be arrogant. Don't be cocky. So anyways, I'll let you guys watch this here. Let me see. Yeah. So there you guys go. Now you can see that's just a smidge. Again, now you only saw a couple shots, or you saw one of the shots on his comeback, and you saw like the winning shot. So, you didn't get to see that whole comeback. Believe me, I wish I could have done a huge montage of the comeback, but it was TikTok, so I had to keep it condensed. But you guys get the point that, and I think it's a valuable lesson for anybody. It's like, don't be arrogant, don't be cocky. And that kid, that he was, and what's a shame is that kid does have talent, like the opponent, he's got talent, and he could have won. He probably should have won by all right. But again, his arrogance and our son's determination to never give up, that was awesome. So, it inspired me. It's one of those moments you rarely see, especially for that big of a comeback hole. You just rarely see that.
Yeah. Well, in ancient times, hubris was the number one sin to the gods. You could do all kinds of other evil stuff, what we would consider evil, and it was okay. But if you had hubris, yeah, the guys would come and squish you like a bug, because that was the one thing they hated the most about humanity was hubris. So
yeah, and hubris was the fall of the Jedi too. So I mean, lessons learned, right? so
that was a long, long time ago. So
right, and very far away. So anyways, guys, the original point of everything was go check out the TikTok. Go check out our TikTok, Beyond the Veil, because it does have like Terry's Dowsing Rod sessions that are from investigations, like out in the field that I've done. I try to like condense it just like some Dowsing Rod sessions. So if you guys want to see just that part of it, some spirit contact, go check out the TikTok and have fun, and definitely give us likes on all of our videos while you're there, and definitely follow us. So that just helps us as we're moving up through the TikTok ranks. Other than that, though, I think we've reached the back end of the show tonight. I think so, Stacy. I'm pretty satisfied with our answers on psychics and why they're wrong, and also why they're right. So, what do you think? You got any final conclusion thoughts on that?
No, it's psychic. Like I said, I hate the word, but it's not really all that mysterious. You can do all the same things that people who claim to be psychics can do. You just have to learn how you communicate with not only your ancestors, but with the universe in general.
Right.
And that's a skill that can be learned. It is not something that you're born with, that only you were gifted with. That's a myth.
Yeah. And I would also say that if you are too lazy or you just don't want to learn, because that's the other thing too, is I think Stacy makes a great point. All this stuff you can learn yourself. But like with anything, are people going to learn? Not everybody's going to learn. So that's kind of the other flip side. So for those of you that aren't going to learn to do psychic things or to get more in tune with your intuition, then my advice is find psychics that are making a connection. Okay, don't just go to those the fly by night, social media. They just rip through questions. If you go and you watch a live stream of somebody doing tarot readings or psychic readings or anything like that, and they're just ripping through stuff, leave. Don't even give them a follow. In fact, unfollow them. Leave. They're obviously overburdened with people, and they're just going through question after question after question after question. No personal connections. You're not, you might as well just hand the money to me. Okay. If you're going to give them $5, give it to me. Okay. Seriously, don't waste your money. Give it to me. Hell, I'll give you a reading, and I'm going to actually try to give you a good reading. I will try to connect to things. Okay. I mean, I'm not trying to be weird about that or selfish, but I'm just saying, don't waste your money. I hate seeing people, especially people I care about, people in chat, things like that. I hate seeing them go to these tarot readers or these psychics and things like that, and they're just throwing money at them, and they're getting the stupidest generic answers. Oh yes, you're going to end up pregnant. Well, duh, but you spent 2 seconds. Like you're just a number, and I don't want that for you. So other than that, guys, I don't think I have much else for you. Stacy gave me his conclusion on everything. Bob says he nodded off. We'll have to watch what I missed earlier. Damn pain pills. Hey, that's fine, buddy. I'm just glad you're texting and talking and hanging in there. So
I'm glad you didn't blame me for my monotone voice that put you to sleep. that would have hurt.
That's what makes it such a deadly combo, Stacy. Is like between my monotone voice and your monotone voice, we get talking, and we're pretty soon it's like Bueller.
Bob's dying.
So, all right. Other than that, yes, and of course, Terrelyn was, chatting the whole time. Sorry, I didn't chat along with you, honey, because you were chatting while I was doing the TikTok video. But I think I set up everything that we said, and but yeah, he definitely stopped dancing for sure. Once when he got toward the end there, he wasn't dancing anymore when he realized truly what danger he was in.
Yeah.
When it was kind of too late. And then I think even at the end, when our son won, it was kind of that moment where it's like, where Terry Lynn was like, yeah, dance on that. And hey, was that appropriate? You damn right. So it was appropriate to us because when you act like that, you deserve a comment like that. So we could have said worse, trust me. But in any case, guys, love you. Remember, next week, UFO talk. All the files, where we talk about the big file dump on UFO stuff from the government. I'm going to look in the original file dump stuff that we did. I'm not sure. I think it's a different file dump. And it was a lot with the HP laptop and stuff like that. But I'm going to look through that. I think it was just a bunch of other declassified stuff. I don't think it necessarily was UFOs, but we definitely, Stacy did get it to glint through the 15,000 pages. So we're going to talk to Stacy about that next week, and just we're going to get into some UFO stuff, guys. So until then, remember, have a happy Easter is coming up. Whether it's celebrating the resurrection of Jesus Christ or whether you're doing it for the time off of work, have a happy Easter, guys. We will see you in the next video. And remember, seek the truth.
Peace.